right, hey guys, Sam here with you on Wednesday, September 26th. We're kind of late morning here and doing a few updates here. So we polled our Twitter followers today and they requested an update on Bitcoin, and I've got two others we're also going to look at here. So let's just do Bitcoin real quick here. There's not a lot of change here, but this is right out of our members Discord. So you can see there's a short trade here that we have some people taking here that is pretty standard ops here. It's just we just swing high, swing low, taking the 50. Nothing terribly complicated about it. A couple of things that are worth noting here. This prior level of resistance that has been impacting the market seems potentially to be back in play. Could be, right? So that's just on the other side of the 65. So thus the stop placement there. So do we get it? Well, if we get the push down here, there's your first target, is your algo target here. But if you think about that and say, well, if we got that, right? So people are likely just getting filled there right now. So that's just, it's likely you've got algos kicking in here. Now note a couple of things here. So one, look at this low volume node that you have here, right at the 65, right, low volume there. So one of two things happens: either the market rejects it, right? So we come up to it and we reject it, or we just blow right through it, right, and go up to the next where we have market acceptance. So if we get something like that, if we break this, well, that's going to create some problems actually. So the question is, well, where the hell would we be in the count? So actually, the preference here is not so much as just tied to the outcome of that trade, or it's not a monster trade. Risking, I think it's about $100 here from the entry here at 65.33. The stop's at 66.32, so you've got a $100 stop there. So not a monster trade. Of course, you could lever it up and trade some size, right? There's 3.6 to 1. Nothing wrong with that trade. Looks like we're already getting a little participation here. This is just a 60-minute. So so you kind of look at that and you think, okay, well, what? So you got to start asking yourself, well, what if we're wrong? So first assumption always is assume you're wrong, right? That's the first question you got to ask yourself. Well, if we're wrong, where would that leave us in the larger count? Right? That's a little problematic as to how we would resolve this, and it's going to get even more problematic if we break this pivot here. So, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. None of that has happened yet. Right now, all we've done is retrace to a 50. The most probable outcome is that we're just going to go down and do that. That's the most probable. Doesn't mean that is what will happen. It's just that's the most probable, right? Just as when we drew this up, it's today Wednesday. Well, I think the last update I did was on Monday. So there's nothing crazy going on here. Swing high, swing low. Well, here's a 50, right? So why, again, no reason to assume that the same thing wouldn't happen. We've been doing that the entire way down. It's either been 50s or golden zone, right? As we've shown this now many times. So if you're working from the dominant pivot up here, right, to our low here, all right, we're in between the 50 and the 618. There is this interesting little issue here that if you go down a pivot, we get right into golden zone, which would be consistent with this, which was golden zone, and the prior, which was golden zone. So no reason to assume that this is going to fail. So that's all so again, why would you not take that trade, right? Unless you're like me, where you're already long so much Bitcoin that you don't necessarily want to be on the short side of it. But if you've got dry powder or multiple exchanges where you're trading, and again, why would you not take that? It's very, very tight stop, very controlled, clear exit, just a continual series of lower highs. I don't know why you wouldn't take that, right? Unless you just, you're hitting the opium too hard, and you're just like, oh, it's gonna go. Now, it certainly could, right? Nothing says we couldn't go back up here and test that 618. Certainly could happen, but if you try and put the thing together, it gets a little tougher. So just want to note that here, that's pretty much everything I teach you in these videos is exactly how I would trade it, how we have members trading it. So now that we've acknowledged that, let's just take that off here. So just think about the count so we can clear up the chart. All right, so what have we done since I think we were where were we? Wednesday, we were a couple of days ago. It was a Monday here, we're on the 24th. And the expectation was that all we've done is an ABC here, some question mark, because the 5 of this is kind of hard to dig that out. Let me tighten this up a hair. Now this was interesting, so let me pull out just real quick. So just to reference this, because I can make this point here. So this set of median lines, this pitchfork here, does seem to be containing the market rather well. Now we've just broken through this parallel here, this upper parallel. Now what's worth noting here is, so you look at that and you go, oh wow, look at that, tag the median line. But keep note here, this pivot is happening before this pivot. So you would have no idea of knowing that. It's only with the hindsight. If you were down here looking at it, that's the pivot you would have been working with. You don't once you get here, that's interesting, but it's not relative to this median line, this set of median lines, right? So swing low. Here's the other swing. Now, if we come down here, right? If we get this, now that's relative. Right, but it is interesting. It kind of gives you a clue that perhaps this is the geometry that the market is working from. We don't know, but so thus I draw this trend line here, which is not uncommon for median line traders, except this would ultimately look like that. So that's not going to happen, but just to give it balance. So if you look at this, so coming up here for the potential 4 here at the 50 now. Part of the reason the stop is on the other side of the 65 is, you can note here, well, let me zoom this in. We'd be overlapping the 1, right? So this red line here, so here's my 1 wave here, right? Here's my 65. Here's that level is lining up with all of these prior highs. So you've got a very clear spot where you want to be out, right? If we take that out, not to mention the fact that a wave 4 going to the 618 is extreme. That's lower probability. Not that it doesn't happen. It's just it's lower probability. So right now we've come up just a few ticks from the 50. It looks like there's algos are kicking in, right? So then here's their target, right? So they're just going to stay short. They'll defend here. So not very complicated, right? Not a lot of change. The expectation was, here, I'll pull this off now, just to clear up the chart. The expectation was that we had done an ABC, and as we were reviewing this on Monday, the assumption was, okay, well, likely that's 1, 2. There was some question as to where the 3 was. We had something like this. So we were kind of looking at, well, maybe, right? Maybe we were going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 with a diagonal, but this now looks more like this is the 3. Right, this potentially now is our 4 here. To tell you the truth, I don't even think you need to give it that much room. You could be even tighter than that. So you could short it right now, to tell you the truth, and stop on the other side of the 50. That's tradable. So there's a couple of different ways to trade this. But if let's go down to the 30-minute here and just do a little dig in here. Let's get that opened up a little bit. So you look at this and you think, do I have 5 in that? Do I have what I'm looking for as a third? It doesn't look as good here. So you might have had an ABC that overlaps and looked like maybe a diagonal, and that's still possible. But if we just measure it out as we would, whether that's the 1, I'm going to use the lowest low here to our 2 and then just pull this over. All right, well, we broke through. So, one possibility here is you've done this, right? That is definitely a possibility. All right, so where would that leave us? So if we've let me clear some of this up. Okay, let me just declutter the chart a bit. All right, so let's get that off of there. Okay, so let's think about that. If that's 3, 4, 5, that's a bit of a struggle here. I'm on the 30-minute. Might have to go down to the 5-minute to get 5 into that. But it's likely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a contender. I don't love the, let's do it. I don't love the, I'm going to go all the way to the 5-minute. I don't love the 4. So if this is your 3, A, B, C, you can probably make that work. So you'd have to have, this would have to be 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, it's not beautiful, but it's there. So let's think about that. So if this is the C is in now here. Right, so this is the alternate. So if we've got, let's brighten that up so you can see it better. Let's go to white. Okay, so if that's 2, let's think about this. So if this is 3, right? So 4 would have gone to the 23, a little front run on the target, definitely possible. All right, well, what does that mean for us? If we have it wrong, and this is the 3, 4, 5, and we've completed, then that is if this is the B, right, that all we've done is the 1 wave. So this would be a contender for the 1 wave of the 2, to go in for the 2 for 3, 4, and 5 to finish this. Now let's get that. Oh, we'll go to do it in blue here. we'll go up a degree here. All right, so this is kind of the idea in that you're saying, okay, well, let's first question is, let's assume I'm wrong. So let's assume that all we've done is put in the 1 here. Well, if that's the 1, then we're looking for the 50 of the all the way halfway back. All right, so here's where we're looking for it. So this is the if we have it wrong, so if we go down here on our 15-minute, we see, well, we got a little divergence, but this would be the first time that we're qualifying for a 4. Pardon me. If this, let me move this. So if this is still going, all right, we're going to know pretty quickly. If this is the 4 before going down for the 5, right, then completing the 1 there, well, we're going to know pretty quickly here, right? We've got a $100 swing on that trade. Right, so if that's the case, then again, it's a very low risk way to find out. Either way, the idea is we're coming up into the next retracement to the series of higher highs, of lower highs and lower lows. Right, so this is the first time we don't carry on in that sequence. So the question becomes, where are we in the count? Well, the 1 and the 2 seem pretty solid. This is, I mean, it's certainly possible, right? So this is the alternate that we've already completed the 1, right? So so if this is going to kick higher, then we're going to know, well, one of two things is happening. Either this is just the 2 wave going in. We could be having a deep 4. Either way, they set up for more down. I guess that's the bottom line. All right, until we break one of these 65s, the assumption is that we're still going lower, right? Which is what this suggests here. So if this is done, right, we're looking for the 2 in here. If it's just the 4, we should be pretty close to pivoting here because we'd be pulling from the 2. There's our 50. So kind of hard to know what's what, although I prefer the prior count until this 50 breaks. This is what I think is more likely here. The 2 still yet to come. Hey, boy, that is the most annoying thing about TradingView. Okay, so if that's 4, if we're going to go down here for 5, if we're going to get this, right? So here's the first indication that potentially we've got this right. Now, if this starts to turn around and we get more legs here, we go up here. That again, that's what I'm saying. You don't need to give it that much room. If that's going to push through that 50, well, that lowers the probability that it's a 4. That increases the probability that it's a 2. Right? So I would have both of these up. I would be looking here to allow for both scenarios. Oops. Come here. Okay. Interestingly, they both have almost identical targets. So if this breaks here, again, lower probability it's a 4, higher probability that the 4 is in here. And we've got this. So we're going to know pretty quickly. I wouldn't hate this if we got up here to this. So here's our sell zone up here. So we're between the 250s right there. So if it did that as a 2, it actually makes better sense in terms of where we could be going. So if that's the 1, then that implies that much lower prices. So we'd be looking for our 3 down here if we're going to get a true 3rd wave. We'd be looking for that 3rd down around the negative 100, 3, 4, and 5, putting us back down certainly below 6. All right, first targets here, but those are just the algo targets, not the wave 3 targets, if indeed that's what we have here. So, here we are, kind of just not a lot of volume to lean into here. Now I am down to the 15-minute, so let's go back to the 30 just to tidy this up. So that's pretty solid looking sell zone here, allowing for both of these alternates. Both scenarios imply lower prices. Both would fit in better, right? Lower prices imply that we did this flat correction here. So we have in yellow, we've done A, B, C. So this is our flat correction. We finish it up here. So that's our A, B, C. Now we're looking to finish. If that's a B wave, we're looking to finish. Well, it depends, how we're going to count this. If this is AB, then we'd be looking for an ABC. Somehow we're looking for a 5-wave structure, depending on what shape it takes. Do we end up with a diagonal? This is going to be what? Just all of that remains to be seen. So this is not relevant anymore. This, I would keep this on here. So you see, I've got a bit of a cluster here where I've got the two golden zones, depending on whether or not this is a 2 or a 4. All right, I definitely would not give it much room beyond that second 50 for the short. So I would keep it. So what's the range there from 56 to 79? You know, that's really precision point. So the idea is we'd get in here and then first here, second here, third here. So if it's going to trade as a 3, either way they suggest down. Now, if this is all wrong, if it's all wrong and this is some sort of a low, well, the first problem is we don't have an algo to work behind us. Right, so this was so we broke the 65 here. So the next algo play is going to be, we know for sure. The software will kick in if we use a dominant swing to a dominant swing. When we get to that 50, which is the second 50 here, software will start selling that. Right, we know that. We don't have to wonder about that. Again, that doesn't mean it can't get through it. We just know that that's where they'll start selling it, looking for that target. Right, that we know. But you know, so you're looking for the reaction in that little, what is it, $35, $40 box, hot box, minimum target being down here. Interestingly, they're right on top of each other. So if it's 1, 2, potential is that we're going much lower. If it's 4, 5, then the 1 is still yet to come in. Then the 2, right, we would draw the whole thing again from this low here and be looking for the 2 between the 50 and the 618. Right? So pretty straightforward here. So right now, it seems the most likely path, or let me rephrase that. The most probable path is lower, right? Until one of these 65s or one of these major pivots breaks. Logical, most likely path is lower to resolve this. This would be an unbelievably bizarre bottoming for Bitcoin to, let's think of it. So we use the absolute low here. We're going to bottom. How would you count that? I mean, there is no good motive wave here. I don't even think you could make a case for a diagonal. You really couldn't. So there's not an easy way to resolve this if this were going to be our low, and then we're just gonna start to rock it. That seems much less likely. Again, anything's possible. It's certainly possible. It just seems much less likely. So what do you want to trade? The more probable or the less likely? It's pretty straightforward. All right, so that's pretty much all I've got here for this today. We will get this will be a tell, right, as to what happens here. How do we respond to this? Maybe we end up with something like this. So we'd have, I mean, I suppose it's possible you could have this. Excuse me. So we'd have something like this. Boy, that would be one ugly looking diagonal. I suppose it could keep going. Is this even, let's just check this. I think this is very close. Well, it's possible. It's possible, right? So this would be awfully deep. If we were trying to trade this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of a leading diagonal, boy, the 2 being a double bottom, the 4 being that deep, that seems very unlikely. Again, that's not a trade I would pursue. But, you know, if it happens, we'll just draw it up and take the first 50 on the way down. It's the same thing every time, guys. That's the whole point of this, right? I'm trying to reinforce to you guys. Same thing every time. If you do the same thing and you're disciplined about that money management, you'll be just fine. Right? This is not rocket surgery. Right? This is there's a 50. Okay, we got a 50. What have we done at every other 50? All right, you know, but sure as hell put a stop on it. All right, guys, that'll wrap up for Bitcoin. I've got 2 more to do, so I'll be back to you in a minute.